I figured it out. Okay, we are back, and I have just been informed that for the last 15 minutes, you have heard nothing but dead air. I am greatly sorry for this. I'm not sure how that happened. Everything has been set up according to the specs, but it has just been brought to my attention. Really embarrassed about that, of course. It was not a part of the programming itself. It was me, the programmer. I apparently did not notice that my mute button was on my Microsoft live chat. Somehow it got punched and has been on for the last 15 minutes, now 18 minutes, which really makes me feel like a total heel. Back to what I was talking about originally. I welcomed everyone 18 minutes ago. To all of you, of course, thank you for tuning in. I have an action-packed bonanza of a blowout show for you tonight. Well, pretty big anyway. No explosions, of course. Sorry to all of my listening audience out there that may be into pyrotechnics. Tonight's topic is Ghosts of the Midwest. I will be covering the Waverly Hills Sanitarium in Louisville, Kentucky, the battlefield of Gettysburg in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, the Willard Library located in Evansville, Indiana, Lit Mansion in St. Louis, Missouri, the Majestic Theater here in my hometown where the webcast comes from, Chillicothe, Ohio, the Haunted Joliet Mansion in Chicago, Illinois, and last but not least, Marietta, Ohio's very own Hidden Marietta Ghost Trek. Our special guest for the evening will be Lynn Sturdivant, noted author and the director of the Hidden Marietta Ghost Trek. And as we do every week, Hot Topics, News Topics, it's current events time. I mentioned earlier where I went through the news segments about 20 minutes ago, after I botched up the whole first half of the show. I'm going to go ahead and skip directly to, we're not going to have Hot Topics, News Topics tonight, unfortunately. We're going to go directly to the issue at hand, and that being Ghosts of the Midwest. Midwest is full of haunted places to explore. Some would call it the story, most of them are urban legends, but when eyewitnesses' accounts line up in one place, that place is then documented as a certified haunting. Although the Midwest is full of haunted places, one haunted place in particular has a very large and a very tragic past normally, that being the Waverly Hills Sanitarium, located in Louisville, Kentucky. And ghost hunters from all over the world have traveled to experience its spiritual activity for themselves. Waverly Hills Sanitarium is now owned by the Mattingleys. Waverly Hills originally operated as a tuberculosis hospital in the early 1900s through the 1920s. At the end of the tuberculosis epidemic, it changed over to a geriatric center. During its time as a working tuberculosis hospital, over 63,000 people died there in the hospital. The walls still harbor the wandering spirits. Some spirits are harmless and seem to be curious, but there are others who seem to act out violently and do not like visitors in their home. Full-bodied apparitions have been seen walking across the hallways. Staff members in full uniform have been seen patrolling the building. The infamous body chute has been seen glowing red at night. The place is not only haunted with patients who died there. 2 nurses committed suicide during the tuberculosis epidemic, and their presence has been felt in the building. One hung herself in a broom closet in room number 502. The other jumped from a window near room number 503. Waverly Hills is listed as one of the scariest and most actively haunted places in the world. If you live in the Midwest, it won't take you long to find your way to the sanitarium for a ghost tour. Your only problem is booking a tour date. Tour scheduling begins in early January, and for 2007, the weekend tours are already 2011, the weekend tours are already booked up. You have the option to take a day-time tour with a tour guide helping you along the way, or if you are more of a thrill seeker, you can book an overnight stay, 8-hour tour, or a half-night tour, 4 hours. I've also heard that you can, for $200, a prize you would get. You would put up $200 of your own money. If you spend the night in one of the padded cells in a straitjacket and make it throughout the entire evening without flipping out, you get your $200 back, plus they give you an additional $200 of their own money to basically congratulate you. The society uses the money collected for the tours to benefit restoration and the care of the building. So the money is actually going to a good cause. The price for these tours it's about $100 a person for overnight and $50 for half-night tours. On these tours, there is no tour guide. You are basically on your own. However, they do have security posted at different locations throughout the building. Before beginning a tour, you will meet in a designated area and watch an informational video about the history of the building. After that, you are on your own with the ghosts. Other groups that I'm well acquainted with, TAPS, the Atlantic Paranormal Society, has visited Waverly Hill Sanitarium and featured the building in their show. The group did have several occurrences that they could not explain. One was infrared footage of a person walking across the hallway. Also, things had been witnessed in that area of the building by other people on several occasions. Waverly Hills has also been profiled on ABC Fox Family Channel's Scariest Places on Earth and VH1's Celebrity Paranormal Project. I will be taking my team in 2012 to investigate the Waverly Hills Sanitarium, and we will be spending the night, and I will report back with our own personal experiences and findings. We hope to get footage, photographs, and video recordings to prove that the building is in fact one of the scariest places on Earth, and hopefully, if we're lucky, my entire team will be able to return unscathed. The battlefield of Gettysburg. Between 46,000 and 51,000 soldiers from both armies were casualties in the three-day battle. That November, President Lincoln used the dedication ceremony for the Gettysburg National Ceremony to honor the fallen Union soldiers and redefine the purpose of the war in his historic Gettysburg Address. People travel for miles and miles and wide in search of spiritual phenomenon. The endless search for the proof of life beyond the grave can lead ghost hunters to faraway countries on other continents, but the search for roaming spirits can be satisfied as close as your own backyard or even in your own homes. In fact, some of the most well-known haunted places located in the Midwest would be Gettysburg, the battlefield itself. I have a theory that if you were to build an entire neighborhood on top of the battlefield of Gettysburg, you would in fact have every single house haunted by the end of the night, not because something happened in the house itself, but the property has been completely tainted with aggression, with rage, with death, despair, blood, mourning, sadness, anger, name it. Every emotion was released there. The energy itself has imprinted itself within the space-time continuum of that realm. So everything's acting outside the box. Another haunted location is the Willard Library located in Evansville, Indiana. The infamous Lady in Gray haunts the aisles of the working library. This haunting is widely known in the state of Indiana. Many visitors and library staff have claimed to see the Lady in Gray with their own eyes, floating just inches above the floor between the aisles of books. No one knows who the lingering spirit is. Some say that she is a former librarian who is attached to the place she loved the most in her life. The prison in Mansfield, Ohio, was used for filming The Shawshank Redemption and happens to be a very haunted location. The Mansfield Reformatory is now vacant, but is home to many lingering spirits left behind after torturous deaths. Some of the most haunted areas include the chapel, the infirmary, library, basement, and the administration wing. I have a very good friend who I had as a host, as a guest on my show about 3 to 4 weeks ago. Her name is Shannon Lusk. And I had her as a guest talking about the Mansfield Reformatory because she works as a curator for that reformatory. The Midwest has many locations that are marked as paranormal hotbeds. The legends have been passed down for decades. Countless eyewitnesses can attest to the truth behind the stories. There are just a few of the locations that are perfect for ghost hunting in the Midwest, but these are only the tip of the paranormal iceberg. There's also a place in the city of St. Louis with a reputation that is quite as ghostly that's not quite as ghostly as the Lamp Mansion. It has served as many things over the years, from stately home to boarding house to a restaurant, but it has never lost the fame of being the most haunted place in the city. In fact, in 1980, Life magazine called the Lamp Mansion one of the 10 most haunted places in America. The house has also attracted ghost hunters from around the country. Once called the Masonic Opera House, Chillicothe's Majestic Theater was built in 1853 on the site of the first bank in Chillicothe, which burned down, unfortunately. In its heyday, major acts visited this location: Milton Berle, Sophie Tucker, Laurel and Hardy, etc. It has been used for opera, vaudeville stage shows, and movies for over the years. In 1918, the Spanish flu epidemic hit nearby Camp Sherman, and the Majestic was used as a morgue and autopsy theater for the piles of soldiers' corpses. Embalmers worked under the stage lights, pumping blood into an adjacent alley, still known as Blood Alley. Since it was built in the 1800s, 2 past owners have died in the mansion, in the theater, of course. The Majestic, one morning in March 2001, no one saw anything but the alley, which is pretty much ordinary looking. The arch you see spanning the street in front of the theater comes from Columbus, Ohio, where it once stood over High Street, along with several others for years. Columbus was known as the Arch City for the longest time. Today, mysterious fogs are known to drift in and out of Blood Alley and around this arch. A dead body was once spotted on the stage during a performance. A man in a dark suit and top hat drifts down the aisles floating at stage level, where the house floor used to stand before it was lowered. A ghostly little girl is seen running around in the dressing rooms, and 3 men who spent the night were awakened by a voice asking for someone named Andrew. Marietta, Ohio, a historic and elegant town nestled at the confluence of 2 rivers. Visitors come to wander over shady brick streets and gaze at Victorian mansions. They love to browse for antiques and make merry in other restaurants. But there is another Marietta, a city few visitors see, a hidden Marietta that exists just below the surface of ordinary life, a place where the past blends with the present, and the line that separates the living from the dead is simply blurred. The entire town is a paranormal hotspot. No one really knows why. Perhaps it's the layers of history and the lasting impact of the people who lived and died here. Or it could relate to the ancient Hopewell and Adena people whose mysterious mounds dot the city. Whatever the reason, Marietta has more than its share of restless spirits. My team and I visited Marietta, Ohio, a couple of summers ago and took part in the Hidden Marietta Ghost Trek. We received the grand tour from my guest tonight, Lynn, and she took us from one location to another. One specifically is now a pub, like a restaurant, and used to have apartments up at the top. They still do. And a son was angry with his father because he was fooling around on his mother, and he marched up the stairs of this now restaurant and hacked his father and the woman to death before running back down the stairs. And you can still, to this day, hear stomping going up and down the stairs, and a couple of blood-curdling screams, and allegedly blood stains on one or more of the steps. And there were a few other locations she took us to that were just mind-blowing. And the town itself is so unique because you can walk down the streets, and you can see partially windows at the very bottom floor of the building sticking up, but these look like regular windows that are adjoined to the rest of the building. And Lynn explained to us that they actually lifted the streets in the entire town because the town always floods. And they lifted the streets so they wouldn't have issues with the first floors, because what you're looking at now are the first floors covered up, and what used to be the second floor is now the first floor. So they've changed a lot cosmetically on the way this town was laid out. They really didn't have a choice, unfortunately. But that was part of the history and the mystery of Marietta, Ohio. And when we return from our break, we are going to speak with Lynn herself and talk about her book, Hidden Marietta, as well as the town that she does so well with this Marietta Hidden Ghost Trek. We'll be right back. Hey, how you doing, Len? Ah, much better now after realizing that the first 18 minutes were botched. Yeah, we're not on the air right now. No, I'm playing commercial time at this point. Oh yeah, I can't believe that. I went on and on and on for 18 minutes and no one even heard it. That's what I did really, really fast. Oh, you're crystal clear. You sound great. I'm horribly congested myself, so I don't know if I sound like Randy Travis at the point in time. Thank you. We're about to go live. Okay, we're back after the first 18 minutes of the show, which I'd like to apologize for again. I managed to get everyone up to speed as to what I was talking about for those 18 minutes. I had to do an abridged version of it, of course, and partially speed read most of it. Managed to get in the introduction to our current guest we're having. We're having Lynn tonight, of course. She's on right now. And she sounds really good live. Of course, live radio is kind of a pain in the butt, seeing as how I ended up hitting mute accidentally on the Microsoft live chat. Strictly an amateur move. I'm not sure what's up with me today. But Lynn, go ahead and say hello to the listening audience. I hope so. All three people that are listening. I'm joking. I have a bigger audience than that. So tell us, Lynn, how long have you been doing the Hidden Marietta Ghost Trek? That's great. I had a wonderful time when we did the Ghost Trek a couple of summers ago when we spent the weekend in Marietta. Yeah, the Lafayette Hotel was amazing. Absolutely. I knew the minute that Brent and I walked in, he normally doesn't get the spidey sense like I call what I get the spidey sense. He did the minute he walked into that property. He felt it like a cold blast of air. He said, I've not felt this way since living in that house when I was still in high school. The house that he lived in, someone had committed suicide like 5 years before. And every time he was around the garage, back living room area, he felt freaked out. And he had the same feeling the minute he walked into the Lafayette. And I never got a chance to tell you what happened to me the night that we were sleeping in that room, because I specifically requested the most haunted room in the hotel. So they put me in the one where someone had committed suicide. And the reason I knew the difference was because they gave me a quick tour through several rooms, and each one that is allegedly the most active had different wall board and a different textured ceiling than the other rooms. And I was wondering at first. I asked the gentleman who was giving us the tour, "Are these rooms where people committed suicide?" And he said, "I don't know if all of them are, but a lot of them are, because apparently there's been like 13 suicides in the Lafayette." Mm-hmm. Ooh. Oh wow. Yeah. I plan on coming out there again sometime. This time bringing my wife because she was very interested in the pictures that we took, the video we took. She thought the town looked beautiful. And it's actually Ohio. Yeah, it's actually Ohio's oldest town too. Correct? Mm-hmm. Oh, interesting. Yeah, Chillicothe being the first capital of Ohio, of course, in 1803 to 1812, and then reestablished as the first capital in 1816, and then we lost it to Columbus. There's a lot of history here. I'm sure that I mentioned some of that to you at when we were in Marietta doing the tour. I'm sure I mentioned some of that to you, or maybe I just let you go on about your spiel because I didn't want to take any limelight from you because you had a tour group. But as you know, yeah, there's a lot of similarities. That and the history of flooding too. Yeah, we have a lot of mounds in this area. Now, okay. Now, I actually have a question popping up from a listener here, wanting me to ask you about the Templar crosses on the gates of the cemetery. Is Lafayette named for the Marquis Lafayette? Oh wow. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's the one. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very interesting question, and hopefully I can get a chance to do more because we had to kind of rush the after the investigation and so forth. We had to rush off midday Sunday because it took like 2 hours to get to Marietta from Chillicothe, and oh, it's a long drive, very long. Um, Also, mentioning that Marietta was the capital of Ohio's territory, the first settlement, which makes a lot of sense since it's a river town, and it's adjoined. Hmm. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, a lot of it I experienced myself. Like I said, I never got a chance to tell you what happened to me in the room that night. And of course, I just automatically snapped into the reality that a lot of the rooms that had different wallboard and different ceiling textures were rooms where people had taken their own lives or had died. And some of the people that worked there told me that the reason there's different wallboard is because if one were to take their own life with a gun, of course you have matter, brain matter, blood spatter everywhere, and you can't paint over that because it's all oil and gook based and bile, and it's hard to paint over that. So they just put up new wallboard. And the room we stayed in had that same setup. So I knew someone had taken their own life there. And that's also along the main hall where we stayed, where The original owner of the Lafayette, who was known as a prankster, loved to play pranks on people that stayed there. So I wake up in the middle of the night about 3 in the morning. I hear movement in the room, and the street light is coming through our window and like basically bouncing off the table and the chairs that sit there in the corner next to the TV. And there's objects on our table sliding around and moving. And I'm laying here watching this. I'm like, are there rats on the table doing this? And I kind of move in closer, and I had a flashlight with me, and I turn it on, and sure enough, the camera case that I had was sliding towards the chair, and the minute I flashed the flashlight, I turn it on, the camera bag falls over onto the chair. And I gather myself, I set up, and I'm like, who's there? Who's there? And then, Brent is at the other end of the room. He's like, who are you talking to? I said, man, someone's sliding stuff around on that table. Look. And he gets up and he was like, you probably just knocked it over before you went to bed, man. You're crazy. So he didn't experience it. I saw it. And then that morning, when I was getting ready, someone or something switched the shampoo out of the shower for the hand cream. It had been moved within a matter of minutes between the time that Brent had taken his shower and used the shampoo, and I noticed the hand cream in the basket after I was shaving, before I hit the shower, and then all of a sudden the hand cream is in the shower and the shampoo is still wet sitting on the sink. And I'm like, who the heck did that? So I'm thinking it was the original owner. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Someone who maybe had been insulted by, yeah, and maybe someone who was of the help that was bald and couldn't grow hair wants us to experience the same pain. Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. Wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 Yeah, I know what you mean. Uh, Definitely attached himself, imprinted himself on the environment surrounding the Lafayette. Tell us a little bit about the other property you took us to, the theater, the old theater. Mm-hmm. Oh, good. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. That's amazing. Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that at all. And yeah, absolutely. Now, what about the old property that used to be a mental institution that's now like an apartment complex? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's I. Yeah, no doubt on that. We captured a lot. We captured a lot of interesting images when we were photographing, of course, in the theater outside of the now apartment complex, which used to be the mental institution, and then, of course, the Lafayette Hotel, spending the night there. And what I found interesting about the basement of the Lafayette, the entire floor to the walls, it's all granite. It's all been covered in granite. hmm yeah, that made sense when you explained that. But the funny thing is, with granite and quartz and limestone have the same properties. They are known for supercharging paranormal activity because they act as a conductor. Much like large bodies of water, they act as a conductive device as well. And our own bodies being 72% water, some people are more affected by the overall gravitational pull of the moon during full moon season, or I should say full moon week, and or the shifting of the season when the Earth's axis is shifted right before we go into the winter months. It really affects people and their mental stability. And it also allows some people who are more cognitive to spiritual awareness, more perceptive during that time. So, hmm which would really add to it. Yeah. hmm Certainly would be. Kind of like a positive and a negative pull from a magnet. It would respond that way, opening a door. Now, hmm oh yeah. Now tell us a little bit about your book, Haunted Marietta. I definitely want to plug that for you. hmm Oh. hmm hmm Absolutely. I'm glad you shared that with us. Now, that's really all the time we have for tonight. I'm glad you were able to share all of this with us. Uh, of course, on my website, parksparanormal.com uh, slash, I'm sorry, it's parksparanormal.8m.com. That's the number 8, lowercase m, like M&M's, parksparanormal.8m.com. I have a link going directly to Hidden Marietta. I have a banner at the bottom of the site that's connected to you, so people can get to your site through mine as well. And I will continually plug it like I always have, but now after having you as a guest, we'll definitely be doing a weekly revisitation of getting your name out there in your book, so it's more for you, of course. You're very welcome. I'm happy Halloween to you too, Lynn. I'll be in touch. You too. Thank you so much. Have a good evening. All right. Bye. All right, that was an interesting evening. I really enjoyed having Lynn on the show. Obviously, a very good acquaintance of mine. I will be posting her contact information as time goes along because she's definitely going to be someone that we'll be plugging and advertising for in the near future. You can discuss tonight's show through the online forums on www.psn-radio.com, or you can also go on www.soupmedianetwork.com/paranormally speaking. And like I mentioned earlier, you can go to my site for Parks Paranormal Research and Investigation, which is www.parksparanormal.com, and that has links to everything that Lynn talked about tonight. So I hope all of you have a good evening. Glad you stuck around with us, and thank you for forgetting about the first 18 minutes, which left little to be desired. So, thank you and have a great week. See you next weekend.